Silly. What? Ha ha ha. Silly. What?
Hi.
Well, welcome to Mom's Art too. Hi, Mel.
Hi, Brooke. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm doing really good, actually.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I'm feeling great.
I'm doing good, too. I'm actually in a good place today, I think. It feels nice.
Thank
Although I'm wearing the
God.
same shirt I've worn for every type of show. I forgot to change.
Hey,
it's fine.
you're representing New Kids on the Block.
NKOTB. Who was your NKOTB?
Oh, Donnie.
Really?
Oh, and Joey.
Yeah. All my friends picked somebody. I was in like 7th grade, and all my friends picked somebody, and so I was left with
No.
I was left with Jonathan. I was left with Jordan's brother.
Oh.
Or no, I was left with the ugly one. I can't remember.
Danny.
Danny. I was left with Danny.
I'm
Sorry,
sorry,
Danny. I'm sure he's hot now. Can I just tell you something? It is so fun to talk with different people each week. Like, I feel like that's kind of giving me life a little bit.
I agree. And I think the best thing about it, too, is that we have something for everybody.
Yeah.
We've got, like, an industry person.
Yeah.
For our Industry Insider Week, we fart around with our friends. We've got comedians, humans with inspiring life paths.
Yeah.
And, other podcasters.
And sometimes we're farting around with friends, like who's just here. Our guest just got here.
Hey.
Hi. He'll be on in a little second. But this one is just I'm excited about because Lauren's here. And this is something that I kind of have always wanted to do. She's an intimacy coordinator, but she actually uses different words. And so she is here.
And this is in the industry.
This is in the industry.
Not an intimacy coordinator between, like, couples.
Couples. No. So it's like stage and screen and scenes and all this stuff. So I'm excited to talk to her because it's kind of how we work with our cast. Like, we really want to be very conscious of how they're feeling on stage so that they'll be vulnerable and they feel safe and all these things. So I'm excited because she uses really cool words to describe how she works and how people should feel. So I feel like I'm excited about this Industry Insider segment.
What's great, too, about her is not only does she work on the intimacy coaching side, but she does some embodiment coaching for artists, which is kind of like the whole 360, like your dialect, your body, your
mind, body,
yeah,
soul,
like the whole thing. So
everything.
She incorporates a lot of the things that we are always inspired by and try to put into our regular artistic life and personal life.
Yeah, but she's a
does
professional.
Yeah, she does it professionally and much better, I'm sure. So I'm really excited to talk to her about that.
Yeah.
Are you ready to jump into
I'm ready
our
to jump
Industry
in.
Insider?
I'm ready to jump into our insider. That's
Let's
gross.
do it.
That probably is not
Woo!
good to use.
It's time for our Industry Insider.
What?
Okay.
Hi, everybody. We are joined in the studio with a Juilliard alumni, player in off-Broadway and regional theaters, an intimacy consultant, embodiment coach, and transformational junkie like us, whose sole thread is to support,
Challenge and inspire artists to live their richest lives.
Yeah.
Oh.
In creative and in personal, because that's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
I'm getting like you're melding these two things that actors should already be aware of.
Yeah.
Creatives should already be in tune,
And
right?
humans.
With like their mind, body, soul. And you've got that as like something that you're implementing into that. And I think it's extremely important.
I think because you are your art,
Yeah.
I mean, if you are ill or tight or constricted, I mean, how are you going to create what you want to create?
I know, and it sounds so simple. And one of the things that I was really excited about talking to you about was, Lauren.
Hi.
Did
We
we
didn't
say?
even say.
We can just
It's in the opening. It was like 5 seconds
Listen,
ago.
It's in the it'll be on the thing.
Read the
We
description.
already talked about her in the
Rob,
beginning. Yeah.
Rob, write a good description.
Thank you.
Lauren Lovett.
Yes. Right. That's
This
my
is
real name.
fantastic.
That's your
That's
real name?
Yeah. Yeah, my dad was Dr. Lovett.
I don't even know what her
Stop
real
it.
name
What
is.
kind of doctor was he?
He was in the emergency room and also a Jungian psychiatrist. Yeah, that was the small practice. He was mostly in the emergency
Oh
room.
my God. Can you imagine
Stitching
going
people
into
up.
the emergency room and being like, it's Dr.
Dr.
Lovett? And you're like,
Lovett.
okay, I feel
Yeah,
like
I
I'm
do.
good.
I love it.
Well, when I was a kid in the 70s, he had an actual doctor bag by the door because he was the last doctor that did house calls.
Oh, that's awesome. Some doctors in Panama did house calls.
Oh,
That's
I believe
true.
that.
Actually, we can
it's only
WhatsApp
if you knew
everybody.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
like
We
a
did.
service. It was like
Them.
your
Hey.
friend was as an ER doctor. My kid needs stitches. I'll be right over. Go get some numbing cream from the pharmacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
I kind of wish we still did
So
that.
do
yes.
I. We used to be able to WhatsApp our doctors. So like even
Same.
our OBGYN, we'd be like, I'm kind of feeling weird today, and he would WhatsApp right back 2 a.m.
Yeah, you have a 2 in the morning.
Yes, they
Wow.
like were on it, and it was all their
Do you have a
personal
relationship?
numbers. Yeah, it was
I
nice.
mean, this is what they say. I'm not on my deathbed, but they say as you die, all it really is about is our relationships to ourselves and then to each other.
That's what it is about.
Yeah.
And that's why I think as human beings, we're always telling story like we do, and in all these different facets, and why it's so important to like
I agree.
Yeah.
continue the craft, people, because otherwise
stories.
we're crazy,
Well,
right?
Well, and also you may.
That's
And
right.
also-
Yes, and we are crazy.
I am very excited that you're here because, well, you're excited too. I didn't mean to, like, steal it
I'm
from you.
so excited because I feel like after like just learning more about you that we have a lot in common.
We do, for sure.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to. But you started out so interesting. Look, here's the deal. We can throw the names around. We can throw the names around and whatever it is. But you went to Juilliard.
Yeah.
You spent some time in Juilliard.
Early 90s. Yeah.
Early 90s. How was that? Was that fantastic at that time? What was
Yeah,
going
what
on?
was,
Who
what
was
took
there?
you to
What's
Juilliard?
going on?
How is that how was that path for you? Because that seems like such a storybook kind of way to go.
But like storybook things usually don't exactly meet what's in your mind.
Yeah.
Oh my
right?
God, Into the Woods?
Into
Tell
the
it. Well,
woods.
tell us. Act 2.
Well, I wanted to go. So I grew up in Delaware.
Okay.
And I wanted to go to Juilliard. I sort of found out about it maybe like because I was doing like dinner theater and community theater, as a theater kid. And Juilliard, even though Meryl Streep went to Yale,
Yes.
and Meryl was big in the 80s at that point, so I went to high school in the 80s. I wanted to be like Meryl, but she went to Yale. I was like, Yale. I knew people at my school who were going to go to Yale who were in high school. It's like, no, not for me. But Juilliard, New York City,
Oh,
of
that's
course,
major.
all the things. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kevin Kline, Kevin Spacey, all the Kevins,
Yeah.
all the
all the
Megans,
Kevins.
all the Kevinses.
So
Some good
yeah.
Kevins, some not so good Kevins.
Some
That's
not so
right.
great.
I mean, it's fine.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah, but I thought when I got in that people would be like these like tortured actors like spewing Hamlet in the hallways,
Yeah.
and that I would never measure up. I was like, I don't really like Shakespeare, because we had like Macbeth in high school, and my professor was in her 70s and fell asleep all the time. So
Well,
it was
of
not
course you don't
exciting.
like
Yeah,
Shakespeare.
exactly. I love it now.
Yeah.
But then I was like,
Yeah.
and but when I got there, especially we were group 23, and our class was irreverent. We were messy and farted a lot. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, you're at this hallowed institution.
Yeah.
And the musicians are, I mean, they also had their quirks,
Yeah.
but they're incredibly talented. And we were too, but like my class was just like, fuck this shit. You know what I mean? We had
Really?
a lot of the people,
love
not me per se. I was a little slightly like Miss Goody Two Shoe, whatever.
You're like,
I'm
I've been
always
here,
like,
It was
done
in your
that. Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
So it was in your space.
Yeah.
Well, there's only 20 people per class.
Yeah.
And at that
What?
time,
Really?
Yeah. And at that time, 20 to 22, and at that time there was 5 women and 15 men in our class. So you have a predominance of men. So there's gonna be a lot of fucking off and farting.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Yeah.
dirty
She knows.
jokes and
Yeah.
you
Oh,
guys,
boys.
3 boys,
Oh, boys.
right? So so it was definitely more irreverent. But at the time, now this is 1990 to 94, it was still very white, very Eurocentric.
Yeah.
And actually, a class ahead of me, Viola Davis was in that class ahead of me.
Wow.
And she and a lot of other folks of color, of which there was not many, as you can imagine, they were in a really tough position, because it was mostly white playwrights and mostly white plays and all this stuff.
What
and
are they going to be in?
Yeah, and even, I mean, they're in everything. And of course, a powerhouse like her, she can do anything.
Yeah.
But, you shared a dressing room together. Like, I was kind of around. It's not like we were best friends, but
Right.
I always had such respect for her and her talent. But it was fucking tough to be one of, 3 folks of color in a department?
Yeah.
So out of 80 people, 4 years.
Yeah.
And then I remember one time we had Edward Albee
Stop
come
it.
and speak. We had a lot of people come and speak because they're in New York. And
Yeah,
they're
of course.
Arthur Miller came and watched a show we did of his. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, literally.
You're going to get punched a lot during
Exactly.
this.
Yeah,
That's
that's why I
Brooke.
get knocked out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Intimacy.
and I don't
It's all
mean
love.
dropping names because these folks are dead.
No,
So I
this-
feel like
Yeah.
they're dead. I mean,
Yes, but a lot of the people that listen, especially to our industry insider,
Yeah.
like, what? That's. I want to hear that.
Yeah,
shit.
it's candy. It's ear
Yes.
candy.
Mm-hmm.
So we once had
Jealousy. I would call it jealousy. but that's
Edward
fine.
Albee come and speak to the 3rd and 4th year. And so Viola was in her 4th year. We were in our 3rd year because we were a year behind her and her class. And at the time, and I think probably maybe still, Edward Albee's writing is about a certain part of white culture. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
And, a lot of playwrights over the years have been like, no, this is a story that can be told in many different dimensions, in many different ways. He was not at the time. This is 93, I think. He was very stalwart in and at the time, erroneously, it was called colorblind casting in the 90s.
Yeah.
Where there was an effort to help folks of color become anything, be anything,
Be
play
all
any
the
role.
roles,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, colorblind is really
Fucking
bad,
awful.
as
I
it
know.
turns
It's
out.
a terrible
Yes.
thing to say.
But that
yes.
is what they were calling it at the time.
Yeah.
That we were in school, and that was. That
I
was
remember
an
that
effort,
when I was in high
made.
school. Yeah.
Yeah, in the 90s. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, he was against it, and Viola and this other guy Cedric and stuff they knew that, and of course. The rest of us, or at least me, I can only speak for myself. I had my head jammed so far up my ass. Like, I had no idea what was really wrong with the system.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'll do what people tell me to do.
Right. I'm a Juilliard.
20-year-old,
Yeah.
person. And they try to, at that time, they don't do it anymore, I don't think. But at the time, they were still in this sort of old school, tear you down, humiliate you,
my
shame
gosh.
you,
Yes,
yes,
tell you
The
you're
boot camp.
nothing. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like an emotional acting
Yeah.
boot camp.
Yes.
Where they just criticize the shit out of you until you're completely broken.
And
And
then
then they
rebuild
build you
you.
back up. Yeah. So we were just like, oh, whatever you say,
Yeah.
And she confronted him at this little talk and was like, said something, I can't, it was 30 years ago, but she said something like, is it true that you do not allow casting of folks of color? And he was like, no, I don't. And we were all like, oh my God. And it was just you knew at that time that it was like, here's this famed playwright,
Yeah.
older white guy, and you're just like,
Come on.
shit, this is bad. And she got up and left, and so did Cedric. They both just left, and it was like, it was really tough to even try to recover. And now, if it was me now at 52 back in that room,
yeah.
I would be like, yeah, I'm leaving too.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know. We just didn't know, and it's no excuse.
No, I
but,
know.
It just wasn't as it should have been on the forefront.
Yeah.
And so, thankfully, hopefully it is now.
We didn't know
Yeah.
the things to fight for at the time. Like we weren't educated enough.
Yeah, and like we were talking about before, there were so many things that were not talked about, including menstruation.
Yes.
Including
Menopause.
money. Including,
Yeah.
menopause, which I like to call second
right.
wave puberty.
Second
Second
wave
wave
puberty.
puberty.
That's what it is
Second
from
wave
now
puberty.
on.
That's right. Well, because it does it is another hormonal cycle. I mean, you're always going through hormonal cycles, but when you reach puberty, your hormones they're signal senders, and they're telling glands, and they're telling your
Pubis.
well, your pubis is your bone, but yes, your sexual
Pubis
hormones
region.
Yeah.
and the uterus and menstruation and the ovaries and all that stuff to send down the egg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you start to go into perimenopause. You're running out of eggs, among many other things.
And so the little man that
The
lives
little
in
dude
there.
is like, okay, send them down, and
nobody's
everybody's
sending
like,
them.
We can't. We're trying to find. We're trying to do it.
Right.
So you get hot because the system is revving up. I mean, I'm simplifying things.
No,
and
no,
I'm
no, this is
definitely
great
This
because
is how I need it.
endocrinologist.
I need
No,
to
I
hear
need
this
it
way.
exactly like that
Yeah.
for
Because
dummies.
I genuinely
Send
do
them
not.
down.
I do not understand menopause. I don't know what happens, and I know I should. But I've never asked my mom. I only recently asked my mom if she breastfed me.
Oh, and
Because we were talking about, somebody fucking brought up that if you are prone to vanilla ice cream, you are mostly breastfed.
Oh.
It's a fucking whatever. It
I'm
doesn't
not
matter.
sure.
I know, right? We're talking to the wrong person on this one, but it's fine. Just pretend.
Just pretend.
It
Just
came from a
pretend.
13-year-old. It's fine.
Sure. Vanilla ice cream.
But I was like, actually, no, I really like chocolate ice cream. So my mom was here, and we were like, well, we're gonna prove it. So let's find out. So we asked my mom. I was like, well, did you breastfeed me? I'm fucking 47.
Yeah.
It's the first time I'm asking my mother if I was
Well, it's
breastfed.
not the way we grew up. We don't ask that shit.
I know.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I couldn't. I didn't want to. Which
want
makes
to.
complete sense with
Well,
everything
I
else
think
going
back
on in my
then
life.
it was like formula, and it was like the
Yeah.
thing
Well, she
to,
didn't have
because it was
time.
accessible.
It was hard.
Well,
It was
also,
meh.
I mean,
Yeah.
you were in the 80s. In
Yeah.
the 70s, it was kind of like the
I was 76,
50s.
yeah.
76. Okay. Oh, you're my husband's age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, some people breastfed and had the shirts and all that in the public and everything. But if you were not a hippie,
Right.
then you couldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah,
That
my
was
family
not-
It
We're
was
not
just
hippies.
formula, give her to grandma.
Right.
Formula. They were all like 20 when no offense.
Yeah.
But they were all youngsters without an education, and you wouldn't have had an
Yes,
education.
100%.
But I was realizing that there are so many questions that I did not ask my mom, and
Yeah.
I actually went through the whole like do my genes to find out things, because I'm like, everyone's probably lying to me about being Irish, because who fucking knows? And they're not. I'm really Irish, but it's the whole I don't know. Like I need to ask about menopause
Yeah.
because I
But we
started
don't
at
have
like
those
16.
conversations.
I know.
When I asked my mother, she was like, I don't know. I don't remember.
Ugh.
Yeah. Like, okay. And like we
That's
were
what I
saying,
thought.
that's basically how the period went. Like, oh, here's tampons, pads. Here you go. Close the bathroom door.
I think there's some instructions in the box.
Yeah, you can read. So
She yelled it through the door.
yeah,
Yeah.
she did.
yeah,
She slipped a
walked
note.
away. There you go. Good luck.
Yeah, that was us. I was 12 and we were allowed to see page like 13 or something in the book that showed a penis. But it was after I was 12 though. Like we learned about menstruation through a book, and she took us to the pizza place and we sat in a booth and she showed us the book about menstruation and sex and all this stuff.
Was that the?
Oh, I'm sure. Whatever you're about to say is
No,
it.
it's not the Joy of Sex, but it was some kind of body book
Yes.
where it was like drawing.
Yes.
What is that?
But we weren't allowed to look at the one page because it showed the male
penis.
figure. Yeah. So my sister and I still
She
talk
got
about
you the
that.
book, but you weren't allowed to look at.
Well, she held the book in front of us at the pizza joint.
I see.
So
But
we
was
were learning
censoring
about
that.
sex with Antonio.
Half the story.
Oh,
Right.
You know, my mom found out that the school was going to be having that
Sex
talk.
ed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
5th grade.
Oh.
So we went to the library, and I remember her asking, "Do you know what menstruation is?" And I was like, "Does it have to do with a priest, like a minister?" Like that's really. I mean, I was just like,
And they were like, "Oh
and
my god!"
yeah. So she's like,
Call the
"Get some
church."
books. We gotta get some books." Yeah, exactly. So then we gets the books. We go back to the house. She was like, "Well, we're gonna talk about this. I want to you're gonna be learning about this." And I was like, "No way!" And I ran outside and I ran up a tree.
You ran up a tree?
My tree that I
Because
always
she was
sat
talking about
in.
blood coming out of you.
No, like
my
just
God. Hold on, hold on.
periods and sex ed and
Yeah.
the whole thing. I was like, I'm not having this conversation with you.
Your
No
mom.
fucking way. Yeah, I ran and I hit I remember her standing out.
How
She
old
had
were
that.
you? You're 5th grade.
Yeah,
Okay,
she had that
makes
door slung open, and she was like, patio door, Brooke Elizabeth, if you don't come down there right now, you're going to be grounded. And I was like, grounded, done and done. See you later. I'm on my 5th cup of coffee today. I know what you're thinking. Who has that much coffee? And someone should really talk to her about that. No, I'm here to tell you the Café Bustel. This is a secret blend of coffee beans, and they're not telling. Trust me, I've tried. This is high quality espresso style coffee with smooth flavor that provides me with all day energy and minor heart palpitations. It's all right, have a cup, or 2, or 5 today.
But growing up and not having communication with the people around you, and yet you are in the business now of all the communications. So
Yeah.
But what I like about it that's different, it feels, is that it's it's a lot of intuitive, like
The intimacy stuff?
yeah,
All
but
of it.
even
Yeah.
all of that, like when you're talking about when you're doing your embodiment coaching, which I was like dialect.
Dialect, character coaching, body. We do animal work.
Yeah.
Also processing trauma through the body, that somatic experience.
Okay, I want to get to that, but I do want to talk about the difference between intimacy coaching and embodiment work, because as a career, it's called intimacy coaching.
Yeah.
Or an intimacy director. So
intimacy coordinator, consultant.
So for you, what is the difference other than
Oh, well, I bring
like the porn aspect?
She said porn.
I know. I was gonna
But it's
say.
true though.
Well, that's the thing, because you and I talked about this before.
Right.
Like, there's intimacy work that is choreography, right?
Yes.
Where and let's take film and TV, which I haven't done a ton of. I've done more theater.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where I'm from, you know. But if you were an actor in a film or TV show,
when
you
I'm
as
an
you
actor.
are, as you absolutely are.
I mean,
But if there were scenes where you had to be exposed, or there was vigorous activity, sexual activity, there was simulated sex, simulated cunnilingus, all that stuff. Ostensibly, I mean, they have to tell you at the audition that these things are involved. You have to read the script. Your agents have to be on it. You have a writer that says, okay, you can do side boob, you can do this, I will do that, I will engage in this, but not that, these sorts of things. But then if they hire me as an intimacy person, hopefully during casting, but usually not. Yeah. Usually they've casted it, and they're like, oh shit, we need an intimacy person because we have this really vigorous like rape scene or something.
Right.
Or sex scene. Then I will read the script and I will first talk to the director and I'll say, okay, here's what I see. This you're gonna need me for this scene and this scene. I don't think a pat on the head you're gonna need me for that.
Right.
I think we're good, unless there's a sensitivity from the actor. But I assess and I talk to them, whether it's theater or film or TV.
Yeah.
I would talk to them and I say, what's the tone? What are you looking for? What for you? How does this forward the story? These scenes, and what does this say about each character, the way they are? Because you don't. Again, having a really good intimacy choreographer is great because they have innovative ideas. They understand ostensibly, right? Not everybody, because it's a very new field, but the good ones really understand human behavior and human sexuality. So if you've got a gritty, really great show, which so many TV shows are so nowadays, well written and well acted, you want to talk to the actor and the director and the showrunner about like, what's the meat of this character? What is their inner life? What's going on with them? Because a lot of times the way we are in sex isn't necessarily the way the character presents, like in a boardroom or at work, right?
Yeah.
So what's the hidden thing we can learn about them?
Yeah.
And also the dynamics, I mean, simply as far as blocking goes, power dynamic or camera angles. What's the power dynamic here? Where is the power?
Yeah. For sure.
The power paradigm, both for actors in the room, but also in a scene between characters, is really juicy
and camera
and
angle
essential.
And all
that stuff. We want more true and interesting sexual activity on screen. So even though there's tons of articles now and tons of quotes by a lot of people, usually men, not always, who are like, the intimacy police, it's like, well, that's not what it's really meant for. It's meant for you and I to have a conversation, you as an actor, or you to say, okay, you've read this script, you've signed on to this project, tell me how you feel about these scenes. Let's talk about these scenes. And you might say, you know what, I'm totally fine. I'm like, okay, well, it says here this. I've talked to the director. He wants this to be very rigorous, or he wants you to be submissive, or he wants, and you go, oh, shit, I didn't realize that. Actually, that is a trigger for me. Or I'm really not comfortable with exposing my front breasts, but side is okay. And I just have issues with other parts of my body that I would rather not. You don't even have to explain as an actor. Yeah. Consent is conditional. So that means if we're in a theater show and we meet and we discuss privately, and then we go into the theater and we kind of do, I usually am there the first day and we just do an intimacy workshop with everybody. Yeah. Even stage management in the theater might take,
treat everybody.
Consent is conditional, and like how to say no, and then to answer your question in a very roundabout way.
No, this
somatic
is amazing.
Experiencing I bring my knowledge of the body and sensations and defenses and protections. So I will say, unlike I don't think other intimacy people necessarily do this, I'll say, what does consent feel like in your body? Right? What does consent? And usually people know what non-consent feels like.
That's right. That's right.
So sometimes we have to roll it around back to there. Okay, so if you are drawing a blank, like, I don't know, yes or good or,
Right.
But what is the sensation? How do you know that something is that you're going to give your consent in a good, now, in personal relationships, right? And as far as workplace relationships, there is by law, and we're talking now about sexual harassment versus non.
Yeah.
The thing is, because I'm dealing with this right now in one of my jobs, sexual harassment is, okay, let's say you're on a tour. So you're kind of all like living together in the same hotel. You're dining together. You see each other all the time. So there's really no way to escape. Now, there are relationships. There are show relationships. There's show sex. There's show mances. We know that.
Right.
But what is the difference between giving consent and having sex with somebody of your free and some might say enthusiastic will,
right,
or being pressured, being coerced, being harassed into it? Now, nobody has pressed you down physically,
right?
But can sexual harassment be because everybody was drunk, because you were drunk, because you were roofied, because you were relentlessly pursued by text and calls and looks and comments to where there may be a power dynamic there where this person has a bigger job than you. This person's older than you. This person's bigger than you. So in intimacy, the power paradigm plays a very big role, both in creating art, but also in keeping you safe.
It's so amazing. We recently had a situation where we had a female actress that was very, she's lovely. She's very free with her body. She's very open. She's like that with everybody. She hugs, she kisses, she wears little bitty clothings and all that. And for us, we're like, we love your freedom. We love your just how open you are about everything, because it also makes her attached to a character quicker and she finds things. And as a director, it's exciting when you get somebody like that, because they're just really, they wear everything at the surface. So they, which can be good and bad.
Yes.
And we had a male counterpart who was, he's fine. He is an okay actor. He kind of found her flirtiness something that he can be like, let's get to know each other since we're playing opposite each other kind of thing. And that made her uncomfortable. But in that moment, no one on his side understood why it made her uncomfortable, because she was so free with herself. How is that kind of a dynamic that...
Yeah.
How would you
well,
address?
First
Because
of
I feel like
all,
we, as theater actors, we deal with that because I go in and I'm like, we're all naked. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, that I will tell you, because I come from that school as well.
Yeah.
I come from, we're all naked. It's fine. Anybody in the dressing room, who cares? We meet each other day one. Oh my God.
Right.
Like, that is what, that's where we come from. It's a new day. It's a new day.
Yeah.
We're not doing that no more because it's confusing. It's confusing. Just like the case that you're mentioning. Now, this gal, now we're not there for therapy, right? I'm not there to be her counselor. But on the first level of this, consent is conditional and varied. So I have had people in a show come to me and say, listen, I'm really comfortable hugging people, like after a show or whatever. It's really fine, except for that guy. I don't want to hug that guy. And I said, well, then you can say, hey, I'm not hugging today. And then they say, yeah, I did that, but this is from a show before. And they were like, and they were angry. The person was like, well, I've seen you hug everyone else. And it's like, yes, that's true. But my consent varies from day to day, person to person. And I'm just not comfortable. So can we just do I think it's great to offer something else. And like, I'm dealing with something, right? There's a lot of stuff going on in the different jobs that I'm working. As far as like,
oh my God, I can only imagine how many things.
Yeah, because the other thing is it's a learning curve.
Yes.
Just like we just said, like, I've been in theater since I was 10 and everybody hugs everybody. Everybody's all over everybody.
Yes.
So, and as it turns out, that's not great.
Yeah.
Really?
It's not great.
And that's what's crazy is that I absolutely agree with you, but I also know that there's so much vulnerability that needs to happen in a room of especially theater actors or whatever, where as a film actor, we're trained to, when you walk on set, you undress your emotions, you undress your inhibitions and all these things, right? But you're not in your trailer with this person all the time.
Right.
But when you're in rehearsals and backstage and changing rooms and all this, part of being able to feel completely vulnerable on stage is knowing that you're in a trust circle of 30 people.
Yeah.
Right?
That you're trusting them. And that is ideal. You want to trust each other.
But
however,
always that one guy.
Well, there's usually
Just
somebody,
kidding.
right? And that's, I mean, sometimes, once in a while, you do have a great cast and everybody is on the same page. But that is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell all my clients, including executives who are also, I coach creatives. So whether or not you're in a show, you're showing in a gallery, you're sculpting, or you have a corporate job, but you're also a writer, or you're also a ceramicist, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You got to have a creative bent, because I know who I am not for. I am not for people who are inflexible. I'm not for people who are like, hey, I just want to do my 9 to 5, go home, and they don't really look at life in a creative way for possibility. They don't want to ask questions of life and themselves. So I know that I'm not for those people.
Yeah.
So I call myself an embodiment coach for creatives. My retreats are for creatives.
Right.
Because that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to that creative part in you. And you guys are creative all the time. You know what I mean? But there are some people that are like, am I an artist? Am I creative? Yes, you go home and write every night. You painted in your 20s. You went to art school, and now you're a therapist, or now you're doing a different corporate job.
Right.
But you still have that fire.
There's art in you.
Yes,
That's what this
That's
podcast
what this
is
whole
about.
podcast
Exactly.
is.
Everybody has art in them.
Moms are too.
Yeah, that's right. We
Ooh.
sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where were we going with this?
Oh, the difference between you deal with creatives, so
Yeah.
we'll understand the dynamics in that different way.
Yeah, and so you've got to, what I say to all of my clients, even when we're like, especially when we process trauma, it's like there is the workplace, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're in a show, you're at work.
Right.
So are you going to be comfortable? No. Comfortable is hanging out at home with your kids watching Netflix. That's comfortable. And so there's a scale. There's like comfortable, right? Then there's a scale of like discomfort. And then off the scale is overwhelm and trauma. We don't want to go there.
Right.
But we want to be a little uncomfortable and challenged because we're acting, or we're singing,
We're
or
at work.
dancing, or we're at work. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're learning things.
Right.
That's where we learn.
We have
That's
to
where
keep
we
our
open
guard
up.
in that space of, I'm learning, I'm here to work, I'm here to focus, I'm not here to fucking fuck around.
Exactly.
Don't
Yeah.
fucking fuck around.
That's my motto. Don't fucking fuck around.
And it used to be, and I mean, I think it's a slow change, right? So I definitely participated in the fuck around culture.
Hell yeah.
I'm like, I'm going out of town to do a show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you
Who
know.
am I going to fall in love with this show?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least, you know.
For a
whatever.
minute.
I mean,
I mean.
Fall in love with the fingers. It's
Or
fun.
something or other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have that in my past many, many times.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that it actually tore away at my self-esteem.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So even though it's fun, it actually is degrading. It can be.
Yes.
Because, and now we can get to like cultural underpinnings of like how women get power, or how we used to.
Yeah.
Because
That's right.
you didn't see many women directors or producers or artistic directors or showrunners, you know? So it's like our sexuality, our attractiveness was the power, at least for me. That's
Yeah.
that was
Yep.
my commerce.
100%.
My talent, and also like, get this.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that was I only recently realized, I not realized, but I think I only recently actually went look at yourself, where I was like, I actually maintained relationships through my sexuality.
Yeah.
I had an 8-year relationship with someone, and it was based off of, you know, kindness and friendship and whatever, but it was also like, I better be the best at sex or they're not going to like me anymore. So I would then do anything, or I would be open to anything or whatever. And then my
there
poor
goes your
husband, because I was
boundaries.
like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And he's like, okay. And I was like, I'm so boring. And he's like, might like you anyway. And so I was like, well, this works.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
great.
it was great.
Yeah.
But I
But
also
that's talking about boundaries.
yeah.
Right?
But I also then, instead of, I knew I had my safety zone outside of that in my work environment, I would then get my way through sexuality. It was always like, well, I know somebody has a crush on me, so I'll make sure that they're blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it was,
and you know where
right?
they are and all that stuff.
That's right.
That is potent, right? That's
Yeah.
power. But now we're trying to kind of redirect all of that and say,
hard.
okay, it is really hard. It's really hard.
Like, where is my power now? Not just me, but one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question.
I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this new thing that we found. It is called Moonlight. The magic of Moonlight is simple. It's the experience of reading together with a projection on the wall. Moonlight bridges the gap between traditional and digital books. There are playful projections, vivid sound effects, and read-along features make this multi-sensory storytime a delight. Moonlight is here to help you create imagination-filled, interactive bedtimes for your whole family and make storytime magical again. Use the code Moonlight10 with our link to get an extra 10% off your purchase. It's very cool.
For me, I coach embodiment because that is where your personal power is in your soul and in your body. And psyche too. It's one thing. I mean, it's people are like mind, body. Well, it's psyche and soma is the same. Is connected. It's not the exact same, but it's connected. So your power is you. Like if I said to you, okay, we all have the same battery pack. We all have the same battery, the same size. Every single person. So nobody is really less vital than anybody else. It's just how do you recharge it? Right? If you're not recharging, if you're not nourishing, if you don't give yourself respect, yourself space, yourself nourishment and rest and love, then your battery feels small. You feel small. Yeah. And that's where we sort of outsource the power and we go, okay, it's vagina time. You know,
somebody recharge me.
Yeah. You recharge you. Right. You're looking externally.
Right. Somebody make me feel recharged or whatever. Yeah.
Make me feel.
Yeah.
But actually, people can't really make you feel.
This is the worst show ever.
I'm sorry, never mind.
You're ruining everything.
So we don't want to hear.
Forget it.
No, that's so true. And I mean, I'm dealing with it because I know I don't have to use my poor husband. I don't have to use my sexuality at home.
He an incredible dinner.
He did, but he feeds through love, right?
Right.
And so we all find our way.
But you don't have anything to prove. The thing
I
too is
understand that.
like, even though you were in an 8-year relationship where you felt that was necessary, I think because this is real. Not to say that wasn't real experience, but like because you know that this is like super safe and this is the one.
But I take that in a way for granted because I'm like, okay, got you, we're good, bye. And we have a completely different spiritual like we are just connected.
Yeah.
But all of my other relationships that may or may not mean anything, but I need something from. Yeah. Then it is that 8-year relationship, every other boyfriend I've had, whatever it is, or
external
every other
validation.
External validation of, am I important in this room?
Yeah.
And if I'm not, then I spread my legs.
Well, let me ask
I don't
you
do
a
this
question.
now. I'm just saying I didn't.
She's like, hey, everybody, look at my vagina.
Hey, who's not paying attention? Come on
Look over here.
Yeah.
Well, so I would ask you, if we were working together,
Yeah.
when have you felt the most powerful in your life? Is there an image of you where you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm directing and I'm making everyone feel like they're powerful in the room.
Mm-hmm. When you're sharing power.
When I'm sharing power.
Yeah, when you are empowering people because you feel powerful.
Yes.
Nothing to do with your vagina. I mean, it's in there. It's in there. It's in there, right? It's part of you.
Yeah.
But it isn't related to your sexual prowess or availability.
I had a vision of your vagina going. That's right, girl.
She points
when you were like helping her, sharing your power.
Yeah.
I do open I do let it breathe.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I do let her breathe.
I think we can
have
bring
air.
the vagina with us for
Hey,
sure.
girl.
You don't need to
Hey,
leave it
girl.
outside,
Well,
which
we talk about
is
it
a
on this
little bit what you're saying
Yeah.
about the relationship is like, oh, I feel really secure and seen, so she's going to wait outside the vagina.
Yes.
Where because I'm in couples therapy with my husband, I believe in therapy wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I feel like this is is a delicious thing to work with, where it's like, when I feel secure and seen, the sex is a little bit on the side. It's a little out the window. The Ginny is on vacation,
Right.
you know? So
and you don't need it necessarily. Like,
right.
And you need the intimacy.
She is, right.
But she's fine. Not getting banged.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or punched in the face.
Okay, that's a whole other show.
No, I know.
That is.
But I will tell you that there's I was thinking about the power thing. I remember being in an improv class once, and it was with a group of people that I was doing improv with for a very long time, and we had a show, and the director asked us, share your biggest fear. And some people were like, sharks and tidal waves and whatever.
Yeah.
And I genuinely had this thing happen to me where I was like, I'm incredibly afraid of being irrelevant. And
AKA
it fucking
unseen,
scares the shit out of me.
isolated.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
people will forget about me.
People will forget.
And it's
about
not
you.
necessarily legacy in the world, like getting an Academy Award or whatever, but it's just being irrelevant to my family, to my cast.
And I mean, that is so I think this is Jungian depth psychology. The 4 human fears:
Okay, tell me.
mortality, death,
Yeah.
isolation, which is what you're talking about, which is what so much of social anxiety and insecurity is based on. Not really death, but isolation.
Yes.
The third, and this is kind of comes into it too. The third is meaninglessness.
Yes.
Right. I what is my life for? It's nothing. I mean nothing. I'm here for no reason at all. The fourth is freedom. We are afraid of freedom because, especially if you're privileged, as we are, you could do anything, including create your own reality. So say quantum physics, right?
Right.
That this reality is just waves until we observe it.
Right.
And we are part creator of this reality, which is what embodiment really means to me.
Yeah.
Is
Ooh.
that you create your own reality here and now. So freedom, and I learned this when I was running that nonprofit. And I would
Tell
go
us what's a
and-
nonprofit.
I know. I have a whole list of things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And it's just
What
so
was
good.
So the name of the nonprofit that I established in 2011 was called Reading Opens Minds. Because you don't want to be too clever. You want to just set it right out there, especially when you're working with LAUSD and the jail system, the sheriff's department.
Okay, yeah.
You can't be fancy. Like,
Yeah.
I
Shakespeare.
had a million names, and I was like, you know what? Reading opens minds, okay?
Yeah, there it
Right,
is.
right.
Yeah. So I did that for 7 years while I was teaching voice and speech and acting, and also acting a little bit still. I quit acting and let go of all my reps in 2011.
Okay.
Because I was like, you know what, this is, and I turned 40, and I was like, you know what, I don't think I want a seat at that table anymore.
That's
because
huge.
It is big because
Yeah.
from 10 years old.
And thinking that you feel like you're a failure, or you feel like you're
Right.
failing other people you told your dream to, or
Oh, yeah.
whatever it is. It's
Yeah,
fucking awful.
and you're the actor at school, and you're the actor, and you're going to do it, whatever.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then I
not
was
quitting. I'm right. And it's
I'm
hard
leaving
for-
this table.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
as far as I can see, and this again was in 2011, we didn't have the great change yet that we're experiencing, where doors have opened, and it's the sort of the Wild West in a good way.
Yeah.
Not in a racist way, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It felt
point.
really limiting, and it felt like, oh, either I need to become anorexic, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, or
Oh, yeah.
do sexual acts with people I don't want to do. You know,
Yes.
even at 40, which is like borderline dead. You know.
Well, yeah,
how-
you're
this
it's over for
industry,
you
yeah.
anyway.
It used to be. So I was like, you know what? Every interaction that I've had in this business in Los Angeles, because it wasn't really theater. I did a little bit of theater in Los Angeles, but I was like, actually, I don't want to be in the company of these folks.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
a
your
hard
choice.
reckoning.
It is. There's grief there.
Yeah.
There
yeah.
is grief, and that's okay. It's okay to feel sad and grieve that you had this dream and that it changed, and that at 10 or 15 or 20 you couldn't have known what the
Yeah.
realities would be, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it's okay to have that reckoning, and also to say, and now I am in grief for
Yeah,
that,
it's
for
hard.
this lost part of myself.
I mean, Brooke knows that I've been depressed for weeks, for months now, just because I'm making that reckoning and I'm changing my life into what I genuinely know I love.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's
and
really
that
hard.
doesn't mean
Yeah.
that, I mean, to give you an example, there have been a couple of times, because I haven't been acting for, 12 years or something?
Yeah.
And since the 80s, I was in a show, at least 2 shows a year, if not 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like a big change where I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not doing any shows right now. I was teaching and everything.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is if that actor is in there still, and you're directing and teaching and producing and podcasting, and you're doing all these things that are creative,
That's my.
Right.
I
in
feel,
these lanes, you're still creative.
Still doing characters.
Yes, you're still and working with people and coaching people and
Yeah.
everything. And I will say, like, a couple of my clients over the past couple of years there's been all these almost things where I have a client in Mexico who was doing a movie, and he called me. He was like, I might need you to get on a plane to play the therapist in my movie because we don't like the one we have. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
almost happened, and I
Yeah.
was like, perfect, a therapist? Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's, the
and being
prep
on film is
minimal.
fun every once in a while, but waiting on
Yeah.
set for 12 hours is not.
Or auditioning,
Ugh.
Just
or the
that whole-
headshot, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I coach the people that are on the front lines who do work, because I want to be a safe place for them.
Me too.
Yes, there
Yeah.
you go.
If you enjoyed this talk as much as we did, join us next episode where we continue this incredible conversation with Miss Lauren Lovett. Check it out.
Moms are too.
Got something to tell you
Right now.
today.
Oh.
We had this whole conversation though about in a past episode though about
Like stinky
People
breath or
being
vagina, like
steep-
people being
stinky.
smelly.
Yes.
Do you
So
have
I-
anybody that you cannot share a drink with, or anybody that you? This
Yes.
a
or is
future
there an
episode.
actor
Yes.
that
Yes.
Do
you
you?
know
There was
that you
this-
think stinks
There.
just by
Well,
looking at him?
there was.
Mine is Taylor Swift.
Oh.
She already
I know.
she says Taylor Swift stinks.
Oh, you're talking about just imaginary
total
people.
hypothetical.
oh,
No,
hypothetical
whoever
people.
it
Or
is.
who's somebody you couldn't like share your drink with,
As some famous person that
or
I,
anybody? Yeah,
that
no,
I
famous. We'll
imagine-
go famous. Yeah.
yeah, that I imagine
Yeah,
I
that you
couldn't share
imagine.
my drink with.
What do you think? Who's dirty to you?
Oh man.
Think of the sitcoms. Think of like. Do you think Jennifer Aniston's clean?
Yeah.
Do you think Taylor Swift's clean?
Yes. Very. She's an icon.
Well, you're wrong.
Doesn't matter.
What
She
about
has to
Madonna? Could you share a
smell.
drink with Madonna? Old Madonna or new Madonna?
Old Madonna.
Old Madonna, I would fall in love with.
What
New
about
Madonna.
Christina Aguilera?
Nope, dirty. Sweaty boobs.
Yeah, I don't know.
Brittany.
No, I'm not sure.
Brit- Britney's
Old
probably-
Brittany, I feel like I could share a drink with.
I
New
don't-
Yeah.
Brittany, I
didn't
don't think
like
I
either
could.
one. I didn't like old or new. I was.
There's
too
something
old
weird
for all
about the
that.
twirling.
To me, like this is gonna sound terrible, but like you have to prove to me that you're sweaty and dirty because I
Oh, that's
assume that you're
good.
not until you
That's
are.
so
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
See, we judge. We judge, and then we say, "Who are we to judge?"
Change my mind. Yeah, I say change my mind.
Moms are too.